iHeart, get ready. Fantasy football is here. Welcome to the Scout Fantasy Show. ScoutFantasy.com is home to the Fantasy Football World Championships and the best players in the world. Real money winners giving their secrets to help you win. Now exclusively on iHeart. This is the Scout Fantasy Show with your host, the one, the only, Dr. Roto.
Everybody, it's Dr. Roto. Get out the insurance cards. Get out the copay. The office is open, my friends. We are continuing my fantasy series, my fantasy in a nutshell series. You know, you don't want to read 75 pages of analysis on guys. I'll give it to you the quick and dirty. We talk the Baltimore Ravens today. When we speak with the Ravens, we speak about Joe Flacco, right? And I think there's something very interesting to note about him. In all of Flacco's years, he has gone over 4,000 yards one time. That's right, one time. Last year, 4,317 yards for Flacco. Amazing, right? When everybody's throwing for 4,000, 5,000 yards, Flacco one time. In his career, Flacco has gone over 25 touchdowns, actually twice, once or twice, depending on how we want to look at it. He had 25 in 2010, 27 in 2014, so really over 25 only once. 25 or more, twice. I think this is the year he combines the two things. I think we get over 4,000 yards and over 25 touchdowns. And I'm going to say this about Joe Flacco. I think he's a winner. He is underrated. He's always good for a rushing touchdown or two because he's such a big dude. And he's the kind of guy who will go so late in your draft that you can pretty much take everything else in the world and wait on him. And I could see the following happen. If I don't get the quarterbacks that I want, and I've got a few guys in mind. I've got about 4 or 5 guys that I'm looking at this year. But if I don't get any of those guys, I have no problem waiting, especially in a 20-round draft. And my drafts are going to be 20 rounds. I'll take Flacco in round 17. And I'll take somebody else in round 15 or 16. I'll wait. I might even take a quarterback in rounds 15, 16, and 17 and piece it together. Maybe I do a Carson Wentz, Ryan Tannehill, Joe Flacco triumvirate there and see what happens. I think I'll play it almost like a best ball, if you will. Now, is there a lot of pressure on me? Yeah, because I got to be right every week. That's not easy to be. Even Dr. Roto is telling you that's not easy to be right every week. Plenty of weeks I've been wrong. But I would think if I could be right with him, I'm going to be right with him a bunch of times. I look at that schedule, and I think it's not too bad, especially at the end of the year. Detroit, Pittsburgh, Cleveland, Indianapolis. I can live with that. I think we had a couple of good games for him there. So I look at his schedule. I think that there's something to be found with Joe Flacco this year. I think he's very sneaky, very late in drafts. Could he hit 32? Look, Matt Ryan hit 38 touchdowns. I don't think Flacco does that, but if he hit 30, I wouldn't be shocked. Running back, they have 3. So let me just impress upon you the following. To win a fantasy football league, I think it's best to divide your season into quarters. Weeks 1 through 4, weeks 5 through 8, 9 through 12, and then the winning weeks 13 through 16, right? So last year, when Lev Bell was out for the first few weeks, it was important to get D'Angelo Williams. He was a difference maker. And there were teams in Las Vegas that took D'Angelo Williams in the 6th round, even though he wasn't a 6th-round pick, because we knew the minute that Lev Bell came back, once Le'Veon Bell was back, D'Angelo Williams was out. Terrence West is a placeholder. He is a placeholder. But I truly believe the first 4 weeks of the season, he could get 80 to 90% of the carries on this team. Danny Woodhead is not a 10 to 15 carry kind of guy. So if they're going to run the ball 25 times, Terrence West may get 20 of those carries. So week 1 at Cincinnati, week 2 against Cleveland, week 3 at Jacksonville, week 4 at Pittsburgh. I mean, those could be Terrence West love fests. So Terrence West is a kind of sneaky player who I think you can get in round 14 or 15 who might give you some real good numbers for the first 4 weeks. Now remember, the first couple of weeks, they're 50-50s. I just need to be in the top half. Does Terrence West help me do that? He very well might. Weeks 5 through 8, when Kenneth Dixon comes back from suspension, I believe that West will get about 50 to 60% of the carries. Okay, I do. Then the Ravens have a bye week in week 10. So I would even venture to say through week 9, if Terrence West is going good, I think he could be okay. I think we start seeing a lot less of Terrence West after the bye week. Weeks 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, I really like Kenneth Dixon. So let me talk to you about Kenneth Dixon for a second. I own Kenneth Dixon, and I took him a little earlier than I should have last year because I thought he was going to be a really good player. Here's what I saw. I saw a guy with a lot of potential. But if you go back and rewind all of the Ravens games, you'll see that all the big runs that Dixon had, not all, but maybe over 50% of them, they were called back with holding penalties. That's right, holding penalties. So that's not Dixon's fault. That's the offensive line's fault. If this guy could get just a little room, he can make people miss. I think Dixon would be a mistake as a running back 3, but I really love him as a running back 4 this year. I really do. I love him as a running back 4 this year. That's where I'm going to hope to get him. If I have to take him as a 3, I'm not going to be thrilled. Because like I said, I think the first 10 weeks, he's not going to do a lot for me. Certainly doing nothing. Look at it this way. Weeks 1 through 4, he's doing nothing. Week 10, he's on a bye. Week 5 through 9, maybe he does okay for me, but is he going to be great? No, I think he's going to split some carries with West until he emerges as the better player. Then at the end of the year, he's going to be terrific. So I need to sit there and wait on Dixon. I love him in like round 10 or 11. I don't know if that's going to be a little late. It might be, but that's when I really want to take him. My last running back for you here is Danny Woodhead. I just love Danny Woodhead. I do. So let me put it to you this way. I could see Danny Woodhead getting about 100 rushing yards. So I'm going to give him 3 yards per carry. Nothing crazy, right? So that's 300 yards rushing, and I'll give him 2 rushing touchdowns, right? So that's 30 and 12 is 42. You with me so far? Then I think he could get 70 receptions. So I'm going to add 70 to that, and I'm going to tell you that I think he could get about 700 yards receiving. So I'm going to add 70 to that. And then I tell you that I think he could probably get about, 4 touchdowns. So that's 24. So let me give it to the numbers. Right, 42 plus 70 plus 24 is 206 points. That's a lot of points. That's a lot of points. Right? It's a lot of points. And you can get this guy probably in a perfect world, round 6. You might have to go in round 5. But if I start my draft, receiver, I'm looking at Danny Woodhead in a PPR league. I think he has value. If I can get him in the 6th round, I'm ecstatic. If I have to take him late in the 5th, I will. So if I'm pick 9, pick 10, pick 11, I might take him as the first pick in the 5th round in case I don't get him in the 6th. I might. It's possible. Because I think he can give me 200 points in a fantasy league. I think the numbers I gave you are reasonable. I do. I think they're reasonable. And don't forget, Kenneth Dixon's not there, which makes it even more reasonable, right? Even more reasonable, especially in the beginning part of the year. Okay. One of the reasons why I think Joe Flacco is going to have a really good year is he has the best 3 receivers that I think he's ever had on his team. Now, he's had good players before Steve Smith. I don't ever believe Torrey Smith was a great receiver. I don't think the Ravens have had great receivers for him. But this year, there are 3 guys. And I think each one in their own way helps Joe Flacco. First of all is Mike Wallace. Now, Mike Wallace, I think, is the de facto number 1 here. And in some cases, they really need him to be the number 1. And here's why. They need Mike Wallace to take the other team's best cornerback. because I want Brashad Perriman getting the other team's number 2, and I want Jeremy Maclin getting the other team's slot corner. So I need Mike Wallace to draw the other team's best cornerback. Mike Wallace doesn't need that many targets, and he doesn't usually get them. Now, he had 4 games last year of double-digit targets, but for the most part, 4, 7, 8, 5, 7, 4, 6, 5, he's okay with that. He usually gets 4 to 5 catches a game, 50 to 60 yards, maybe a touchdown here, maybe a touchdown there, but not really a touchdown guy. If he goes 65 catches, maybe 900 yards, 5 touchdowns, I think that would be a pretty good year for him. But his speed keeps the defenses honest. He can break a tackle and take it to the house. He is a very good receiver. His presence helps Brashad Perriman, who I think is a great young receiver. This guy's 23 years old, and look, they are going to he's going to be like their Taylor Gabriel, but maybe better. I think Perriman has more skill than Gabriel, and I think Perriman is just a bigger target, 6'2". Gabriel's 5'8". Perriman's going to win a lot of 50-50 balls. If I'm the Ravens offense with Joe Flacco back there, I'm going to throw the ball deep to Perriman a lot. At least maybe, 3 to 4 times a game. Now, will they be 40-yard bombs? Maybe not, but they may be 25 yards or more. Because here's what's going to happen. Perriman will come down with it, or maybe they will get a pass interference penalty. Either way helps the Ravens. I think Perriman has about 60 receptions this year. Maybe he gets another 800 yards, 5 or 6 touchdowns. Next, Jeremy Maclin comes aboard. So if anybody realized that Maclin was going to get cut by the Chiefs, you're a smarter man than I. I never saw that coming. But Maclin goes to the Ravens, and Ozzie Newsome does a great job getting this guy. This guy's going to go in the slot, and he's going to get tons of snaps. Because let me tell you something, Dennis Pitta is done. And we'll get to that in a second. So I think the Ravens are going to go with 3 receiver sets throughout this season. I think Maclin could easily see 75 receptions this year. Maybe 75 receptions, maybe close to 1,000 yards, maybe 8 or 9 touchdowns. Yeah, I like it. So we've got 3 guys. We may not have the de facto number 1 in Baltimore, but we've got 3 guys who are all really good. Right? Maclin, Wallace, Perriman. Where would I take them? I want Maclin as my wide receiver 4, but I might be willing to take him as a 3 if I start with running backs early on. But I really want him as a 4. I want Wallace as a 5, and I want Perriman as a 5, maybe even a 6. That's ideal. Will I have to negotiate? Well, sure, everything's up for negotiation. Everything's up for negotiation, but that's ideally what I'd like to do. So now let's get to tight end. First of all, Dennis Pitt is done. Secondly, Ben Watson's 36 years old and coming off a torn Achilles. Okay? So what are we really expecting from Ben Watson? Next, Crockett Gilmore's coming off of shoulder injuries and shoulder surgery. Max Williams has never been able to stay healthy. So I really look at this, that they may have a tight end out there, but not a great receiving tight end like we know from the Ravens in the past. I think you better get used to Woodhead catching 70, Wallace 70, Maclin 70, Perriman 70. You could have 4 guys with 70 receptions, right? 4 guys with 70 receptions. It's possible. And then maybe, another 100 with everybody else. So that's about 380 completions. I think Joe Flacco maybe gets about 400 completions. So there's where the numbers are coming from. So maybe the other 100 are tight end, West, Dixon, Campanaro, Chris Moore. I'll figure it out, right? That's the other 100. But I think you could have 4 guys with 70 receptions. Maybe Maclin with 80. Maybe even Woodhead with 80. Kicker. So let's talk about kicker for a second. Ideally, I'm the guy who takes my kicker in round 18 or 19. I am. Unless his name is Justin Tucker. If you want to take Tucker, you have my permission to do it in round 16 or 17. But unless the guy's name is Justin Tucker, I'm really not interested. Maybe Steven Gostkowski, but I pulled that number last year in round 17 and he wasn't very good. So I think I'm down on Gostkowski, and the only guy that I'm willing to do that with is Justin Tucker because he's a difference maker, because this guy's got a booming leg. I mean, really. I mean, sensational stuff. Last year was 10 for 10, over 50 yards. I mean, the year before he wasn't as good, but last year, 10 for 10, I'll take that every time, won't I? So he is a difference maker at kicker. So let's look again at their playoff schedule. We've got at Pittsburgh, at Cleveland, home against Indianapolis. Pittsburgh, you never know what those games are. Look, Dr. Roto Jr. loves the NBA. He doesn't love football. But he watched a Ravens-Steelers game last year because his best friend in the 5th grade was a Steelers fan. And I think when we watched from the end of the third quarter to the end of the game, there were like 5 scores. Because when these two teams meet, anything is possible. So I don't look at the Pittsburgh game and say it could be low scoring. It could be low scoring, it could be high scoring. I'll tell you one thing. Here's my guess. That game is at Pittsburgh. Ben Roethlisberger plays well at Pittsburgh, should be high scoring, which means Joe Flacco will have to do well because there's no way the Steelers blow out the Ravens, so I've got to think Flacco has a good week. Cleveland, come on. Everybody has a good week against Cleveland. And home against Indianapolis, please. The Colts haven't stopped anybody in years. I don't think they're going to start on week 16. So that's not a bad playoff schedule at all. I love John Harbaugh. He's one of my favorite coaches. I don't think he gets nearly as much credit as he deserves. He's a really top-notch coach. He's normal as opposed to his brother who's out of his mind. Brother's a great coach, but he's out of his mind. Loco. But John Harbaugh is terrific. Ozzie Newsome gets it done. This is a well-coached team. And this is a team that I think should make the playoffs. And I want a piece of them fantasy-wise. I think they're underrated fantasy-wise. And underrated and underappreciated means undervalued, which I'm all about because it's all about the value when I get to Las Vegas. But right now it's time to put away the insurance cards, put away the copay. The office is closed, my friends. I need you to go, and I don't want you to go. I need you to go to playffwc.com. That's playffwc.com. When you get there, you know what you're going to see? You're going to see our draft lobby. Maybe you want to do a slow draft. Maybe you want an online championship. Maybe you want to be in the world championship. Maybe you want to be part of where the best players are playing. Maybe you want to be in the place where there's the top payouts in the industry with amazing customer service and an easy-to-use draft room. I know that's where I'd want to be. Next, I'd want to be a member of Scout Fantasy. Enter the promo code ROTO, that's R-O-T-O. We'll pay you pay for 1 month, we'll get you 2 more months for free. You get access to Sean Childs, Adam Ronis, myself, Mark Deming, Joe Jefferson, some of the top names in fantasy football, guys who have won at the highest level. I'm so tired, and I really mean this. I'm tired of jokers who haven't won anything pushing their stuff out there, telling you guys, yeah, you're going to win if you use my stuff. Dude, you can't even win your own league. Please, if you're going to spend your hard-earned money, spend it with winners. Sean Childs, Adam Ronis, Dr. Roto, we win. And we want you to win. So please be a part of the Scout Army. All right, guys, wishing you a great day. Be well. Take care.
Thanks for listening to the Scout Fantasy Show. There's never been a better time to join the Scout Army. Visit scoutfantasy.com. Use the promo ROTO for 2 months free. And don't forget, fantasy players, please thumbs up the podcast on the iHeart app. See you next time. Go Scouts!